This book made me question God. As in, God, why are you doing this to me? Okay, I don't usually dedicate whole videos to negative reviews on my channel for several reasons. Mostly because I've been getting a lot better at DNFing books. In fact, I haven't had a 1-star review since, 2014. Even though I love watching rant reviews, I don't always feel comfortable doing them because I'm a hypocrite. And I figure if I have to rant about a book, I can just do it in my monthly wrap-up and move on. But this book is special. So why am I taking time out of my day and yours to rant about this book? Well, I haven't been so infuriated by a book in a long, long time. And this book I had to finish because it was for my book club. And also because I can't hurt Dan Brown. He pretty much just hands over a manuscript and they hand him back a pile of cash about the same weight and size of the manuscript. He's so successful that, my little rant review is not going to hurt him. It's not like I'm ranting and dragging like an indie author. No, it's frickin' Dan Brown. It doesn't matter what I say, really. And it really doesn't matter if you liked this book, if you like Dan Brown, who am I to squash your joy? Just stop watching this and go read more Dan Brown and enjoy yourself. Don't watch the rest of this review. So this book is the 5th in the Robert Langdon series, the one that started with the Mona Lisa one. I never read it. I never really had any interest in reading it. But you can read each book in the series independently. It doesn't matter. They're all independent adventures, apparently. So what is it about? Okay, so our hero, Robert Langdon, goes to the Guggenheim because one of his friends, who's like a Steve Jobs kind of guy, is going to give a presentation that, according to him, will change the world forever. And also, kill all of the world's religions in the process. Okay, so Robert Langdon shows up and he's like, whatever, what is this, brilliant man going to tell us now? So the guy gets about halfway through his presentation when tragedy strikes and he isn't able to finish the presentation. And it is up to our hero, Robert Langdon, to trek all across Spain with the beautiful curator of the Guggenheim Museum in tow, by the way, for reasons. He has to find the thing in order to launch the pre-recorded presentation to the world, save the day, save knowledge, whatever. So why does this book suck? Oh, so many reasons. First of all, this is almost 500 pages long, and most of it is filler. I got so tired of Dan Brown opening, each chapter with a Wikipedia article on some thing. It didn't always pertain to the story. A lot of it was just look at how much stuff I know. I get it, Dan Brown. You know stuff. Thank you. I found the character of Robert Langdon to be sort of like if James Bond was a, well, actually guy. Imagine if Bond rolled up into Casino Royale and instead of ordering a Vesper Martini and taking names and saving the day, he was like, well, this casino was originally built in 1592 and it has the stones that were mined from the quarry and the limestone is a particular color. You can tell by the way that it moves in the light. And it's shut up. Shut up, Robert Langdon. I don't care. Give me more about the adventure. All of this book takes place in about a day and a night. It's one day and a night, but it takes so long to get through. It doesn't move at a very fast pace because of all the flashbacks and all the extraneous information that we don't need. He describes famous buildings, like the Guggenheim Museum. He describes in detail what it looks like. We don't need all that detail. Just tell us a little bit, it's a modern building and we get it. It's this whole thing is going to be the contrast between the past and modernism. We get that. We get that from just a few sentences, not chapters upon chapters of this is what the museum looks like and here's every single famous exhibit in the museum. Sure, not everybody knows what the Guggenheim Museum looks like, but we have Google. We can Google it. All you have to do is give us an impression of it, and if we really want to know what it looks like exactly, we can Google it. Another reason why this sucks is that Brown never lets his readers come to their own conclusions. He spells everything out for them exactly how he wants you to get it. He also doesn't seem to realize that his readers live in the world and know things. For example, he describes what Uber is. Uber's ubiquitous on-demand driver service had taken the world by storm over the past few years. Via smartphone, anyone requiring a ride could instantly connect with a growing army of Uber drivers who made extra money by hiring out their own cars as improvised taxis. Only recently legalized in Spain, Uber required its Spanish drivers to display Uber's U logo on their windshields. Why? Why are you doing this? God, why are you doing this to me? Another great example we have here is he tells us the whole history of where the ampersand came from, because reasons. And then he has a joke about it, but he has to explain the joke. Isn't that like the best kind of person who tells you a joke and then explains it? So the ampersand comes from Latin E-T, smushed together. Whatever. This is kind of interesting. Fine, sure. The ampersand's unusual design was a typographical fusion of the letters E and T. The ligature is still visible today in computer fonts like Trebuchet, whose ampersand clearly echoes its Latin origin. This is in the middle of, a thriller. Okay? Langdon would never forget that week after he had taught Edmund's class. Edmund is the Steve Jobs guy. Class about the ampersand. The young genius had shown up wearing a t-shirt printed with the message, "Ampersand phone home." A playful allusion to the Spielberg movie about an extraterrestrial named E.T. who was trying to find his way home. Thank you for describing that joke to me, and also describing what the movie E.T. is, because clearly I don't live in society in America, and I don't know Spielberg's one of his most famous movies. Thank you so much, Dan Brown. I'm just going to read you another particularly awful passage where he just spells everything out for the reader, and also in this you can see how well he writes female characters, which, to take a leaf out of Dan's Brown book, is not well at all. He can't do it. He's bad, and he sucks. So in this scene, one of two female characters in the whole book, who is the curator of the Guggenheim, so you would imagine this person would be pretty smart, is in a flashback talking to our Steve Jobs guy about how he's going to launch his presentation from his phone. Who will activate the presentation, you or me? I'll do it myself, he said, pulling out his phone. With this! He held up his oversized smartphone with its turquoise gaudy case. It's all part of the show. I simply dial into my remote server on an encrypted connection. Edmund pressed a few buttons and the speakerphone rang once and connected. A computerized female voice answered. Good evening, Edmund. I am awaiting your password. Edmund smiled. And then, with the whole world watching, I simply type my password into my phone, and my discoveries live streamed to our theater here and simultaneously to the entire world. Sounds dramatic, Amber said, impressed. Unless, of course, you forget your password. That would be awkward, yes. I trust you've written it down, she said wryly. Blasphemy, Edmund said, laughing. Computer scientists never write down passwords. Not to worry, though. Mine is only 47 characters long. I'm sure I won't forget it. Amber's eyes widened. Remind you, this is the curator of the Guggenheim Museum. 47! Question mark, exclamation point. Edmund, you can't even remember the 4-digit PIN for your museum security card. How are we going to remember 47 random characters? He laughed at her alarm. I don't have to. They're not random. He lowered his voice. My password is actually my favorite line of poetry. Amber felt confused. You used a line of poetry as a password? Why not? My favorite line of poetry has exactly 47 letters. Well, it doesn't sound very secure. No? You think you can guess my favorite line of poetry? I didn't even know you liked poetry. Exactly. Even if someone found out that my password was a line of poetry, and even if someone guessed the exact line of millions of possibilities, they would still need to guess the very long phone number I used to dial into my secure server. Like, kill me. I hate this. It's so bad. The only thing that Dan Brown implies in this entire book, without spelling it out exactly for the reader, is the existence of two gay characters. You fucking coward. Really? You're going to spell out the E.T. joke, but you're not going to explicitly say these two characters are gay? Like, another thing I couldn't stand about this book is how repetitive it was. So the Steve Jobs character revelation was all about humanity. Where do we come from and where are we going? So the origin of humanity and what's going to happen to us. What are we evolving into? He repeats this phrase, where do we come from and where are we going? Probably 50 times within this book. Like, I really should have kept a tally. It's even hidden in the synopsis in the dust jacket. There are bolded letters in here that spell out, where do we come from? Where are we going? So the best example of this repetitive factory is in chapter 69. So they're in a church. Robert Langdon looks up and sees some carvings in the church. He quickly shifted his gaze to the inscription above the doors. 2 Greek letters. Alpha and Omega. At this point in the book, like, that's it. That's all we need. Oh, wow. That's another hearkening back to your theme of where do we come from? Where are we going? Alpha and Omega. We get it. But he goes on. Beginning and end, Amber whispered, also eyeing the letters. Very Edmund. Langdon nodded, catching her meaning. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Like, you just repeated yourself 3 times. 3 times there. We already get your theme. Stop it. Stop it. But the absolute worst part is that this whole book, the whole book's plot, is built on a faulty premise. So at the very beginning of this book, in the very first chapter, we are told that this Steve Jobs kind of guy is going to release a statement about his scientific discovery that he claims will change the world forever and kill religion. That is a huge statement to make. And you don't get to know what his discovery is until the very, climax of the book. So after nearly 400 pages of build-up, pretty much anything he could say is going to be anticlimactic. But throughout the book, he keeps reminding you how all this is going to change the world, and people are, literally killing other people to, try to stop this from coming out. And I'm going to get into a little bit of spoiler territory, so if you've watched this far, and you still want to read this book without being spoiled, please make your departure now. So we keep getting reminded that this is going to be terrible. And this one bishop, has a line here, chapter 94. We're getting close to the end here. So this bishop, Valdespino, is thinking about this announcement coming out. His prediction for the future was calamitous. So disturbing that Valdespino and his colleagues had urged him not to release it. Even if the futurist data were accurate, sharing with the world would cause irreversible damage. Not just for the faithful, Valdespino knew, but for every human being on Earth. So, we get to the end. Langdon launches the presentation on a live stream, so the whole world, whatever, can watch it. And you know what it is? You know what his scientific discovery is? The singularity. He's basically warning people about the singularity. When artificial intelligence finally takes over humanity and we either have to adapt to our, robotic overlords, or humanity will die out. That's his announcement. That's what we have this whole book. Yeah. You know what? You know how I was just able to give you a basic definition of the singularity? Because most people have already heard it. A lot of scientists and tech guys have already come out and said, oh, the singularity, kind of scary. We should, think about this for a second. Did it rock the whole world? No. Did it shake anybody's faith? Maybe a few people. Not the whole world. I doubt a high-ranking bishop in the Catholic Church would care. That is what this whole book was leading up to. The climax of this book was a TED Talk about the singularity. Wow. Wow. So thanks for nothing, Dan Brown. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed my rant today. And until my next video, I hope that your reading is a lot better than mine just was. Happy reading, nerds!